In today's episode, we are joined by former Detroit Pistons beat writer, but current New York Knicks beat writer James Edwards III to preview this upcoming series against the New York Knicks. Can the Detroit Pistons pull up the upset? And if they do, will it be in less than 7 games? We'll talk about all that in today's episode, Locked On Pistons Podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Actually, I started off this wrong. What's the deal? Welcome back to another Locked On Pistons episode. I'm your host, per usual, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. You guys know all the stuff to click in the description. Substack, the playback room. You guys know to head over to LockedOnDaily.com to get your Locked On Pistons daily newsletter when you type in your email. Also, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We got a 30-minute interview that we recorded with James Edwards III, the former The Athletic beat writer for the Detroit Pistons. He now covers the New York Knicks for the Athletic. This is his first year away. What a coincidence that now the Pistons go against the Knicks in the first round. We get all of his thoughts about the strengths and weaknesses of the Knicks, where the Pistons could try to take advantage, where the Pistons could be at trouble against the Knicks, and why and how the Pistons have a chance to win the series, and what it will look like if this series ends up going a little longer. So hope you guys enjoy the episode. I'll go ahead and play it for you guys now. Had fun having James on. I appreciate him making time out of his busy schedule to come on to the podcast. But without further ado, the episode coming up to you guys, interview with James Edwards III. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. All right, guys, we're here with James Edwards III, the New York Knicks beat writer now. You guys all remember him as the Detroit Pistons beat writer for The Athletic. Who would have thought that when James left at the beginning of this year to go to New York, that the Detroit Pistons not only would make the playoffs as soon as he leaves, like not playing, playoffs. They would make the playoffs as soon as he leaves and then get matched up with the team that he went to cover. James, how are you feeling about all this? Before we even get to breaking down like the series, how do you feel that like all this happened within the first year of you leaving?
Basketball gods obviously enjoy having their way with me. But I'm happy for the people over there in Detroit that I know, the players that I've covered since I entered the league, the players like Cade, Stu, Ausar. Obviously Jaden's been down, but guys that I've got to know really, really well since they've come in the league. Great guys, represent the organization in the city well. So first and foremost, I'm happy for them. And then obviously like the peripheral people who I've known. I covered the Pistons for 7 years, the people that I've known for 7 years there. And obviously I'm from Michigan. So I've a lot of family there. I'm happy to come home and see some family, see my friends. But it's been listen, you can go find it. Before I left, I think one of my final stories was I had the Pistons making the play-in. I didn't expect this. I don't think anybody else did. But I figured that they would be a play-in team this year. I thought they would be a postseason team. For some reason, and I guess I understand it, like Cade was really good last year. And people, for obvious reasons, probably didn't pay attention that aren't outside of Detroit. They added shooting around him, and credit to Troy, like defensively, like the players that they drafted, Ausar, Stu, like those have been vital to the success that this team has had this year. So I'm not too surprised. Terrific in adding the kind of the that were missing from the previous squads, and JB has just really got this team to buy in and taking it to another level. So super happy for everybody over there. Excited to see the guys when they get to New York. Every time the Pistons and Knicks play, I'm able to catch up with Cade and Stu and Ausar and Tech and all those guys, and just super happy for them. And it should be an interesting and fun series. I think the Knicks are a very talented team. They have a lot to prove, and I think there are some similarities between the two fan bases and franchise that I think the fans don't care to admit. But as somebody who bridges the gap between both, it's far more similar than either side likes to likes to say out loud.
All right, so let's get into the series itself. I want to start with the Knicks because you obviously have been watching them all year, and Pistons fans obviously haven't got to get to watch them. I'm assuming probably haven't watched them more than like the 4 games, and some maybe have watched them more, but more than the 4 games they've matched up against the Pistons. So I wrote a few articles the last few weeks going into how the Pistons' potential playoff matchups have been playing. Like that was before when we thought maybe Indiana could be matching up against them, maybe Milwaukee, maybe New York, etc. And I saw that New York has been looking. It felt like that they were heading into the playoffs on a high horse. Like they've been playing their best basketball as of late. Their defense since February 28th was around 7th, 6th best in the NBA. They've been looking a lot better defensively since Mitchell Robinson and OG Anunoby returned. Just where do you think this Knicks team is at right now, heading into this first round series against the Pistons?
Yeah, they're definitely not playing their best basketball right now. This is a team that over the last week of the season, they lost to Boston and Cleveland. They blew a 23-point lead against Cleveland. They lost to Boston in overtime. They are 0-10 against Cleveland, Boston, and Oklahoma City. And I think that's where a lot of the angst comes from with the fans. Like this team was on the doorstep of making the Eastern Conference Finals last year before injuries. And then they went out and traded a lot of picks to get Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns. And in the regular season, it led to just one more win. And they weren't able to even push themselves closer to kind of the at least during the regular season. I don't think I think any Knicks fan that's honest with themselves doesn't think they can beat Boston in the second round. But they didn't really close the gap at all. And if you look, the gap between third where the Knicks are and sixth where the Pistons are is much closer than the gap between third and second. And that's not nothing. New York, yes, I thought they did find some stuff defensively, but I think what's missed if you weren't paying attention throughout the course of the whole season or paying attention super close is when they kind of started to take off defensively. Jalen Brunson went out for a month, and they put in Deuce McBride, who obviously Jalen Brunson is one of the best players in the NBA, but Deuce McBride's a very good defender. And for them to survive without Jalen, they had to really kind of get creative and up their intensity and aggressiveness defensively, and they did that. Mitchell Robinson came back, helped too. So you see lineups with Deuce McBride and Mitchell Robinson alongside Mikal, Josh, and OG Anunoby, and the defense did improve. So, but with that, like, for as good as a player as Jalen Brunson is, right, like that's not going to be defensively. They're not going to be able to hang their hat on what they kind of built in his absence, right? Because you have Jalen and Cade out there. Those are two guys who, as tremendous of offensive talents as there are, they both try on defense. Like, I'm not saying they don't try, but like everybody has limitations. And that's something that the Knicks are going to have to survive. So they've been an up and down defensive team. They've struggled against the great teams in the league. They've been 500 essentially against the good teams. I think they're 15-13 against teams with winning records if you take out Boston, Cleveland, and Oklahoma City. They're at a super efficient offense, but they don't shoot a lot of threes, and that costs them sometimes. But at the end of the day, they're super talented, and they have 5 guys who can swing a series at any moment, swing a game at any moment. I just wonder if this group as a collective can figure it out, if the pieces fit. And they really didn't get to a high level of consistency consistently in the regular season. And then you end the regular season losing 3 of your last 4. They got a lot of stuff. There's more questions than there are answers with the Knicks. And I think that's where you go into the playoffs and you're like, all right, what version of this team is going to show up? Because we've seen an inconsistent version all season. And we haven't really seen them hit their peak consistently over a stretch at all this year.
So obviously you know enough about the Pistons. So the next question is going to be, obviously the Knicks have some weaknesses. The Pistons were able to go 3-1 against them this season. Obviously, regular season matchups don't say everything about what's going to happen in the playoffs. I believe the year the Cavs swept the Pistons in like 2016. The Pistons had like won multiple games in the regular season and then got swept in the playoffs. So regular season matchups don't mean everything, but they were able to go 3-1. What is about the Knicks? Or I guess I should say, what's the weaknesses you believe the Pistons can attack against the Knicks that gives them a chance to win this series. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with Prize Picks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Luka Doncic for more than 28 points and Jason Tatum for more than 8 rebounds. That's the kind of thing you can do over in the basketball world. Or you can take Connor McDavid for more than 1 goal and Austin Matthews for more than 5 shots on goal. What I love most about Prize Picks is that you have this promo Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday, they discount player projections up to 25% for even more value, and payouts are fast, safe, and easy, and secure. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Then I got to tell you about another one of our sponsors, Wayfair. Spring is here, and that means it's home project season. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling a full renovation, Wayfair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. From small updates like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, or outdoor lighting, Wayfair has quality products for every budget. Their free and fast shipping made things so easy, no hauling heavy items from the store. I love that they have top brands like GE and Moen at great prices. Shopping was seamless, and I found exactly what I needed to fit my space and style. Wayfair makes home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Get your home the refresh it needs at wayfair.com.
I think there's a couple things. I think that the Knicks have struggled against the top defenses in the NBA. I believe they're 9-20 versus the top 10 defenses, and that includes Detroit, right? Like Detroit can throw in Ausar Thompson on Jalen Brunson, and then can throw a Ron Holland on Jalen Brunson. Isaiah Stewart, obviously, as you guys know, has been the best rim protector in basketball. And I've said this since forever that I think he's actually even better guarding in space. So there's versatility there. Cade on the ball has been really good as a defender this year. Then you have guys like Tobias competes defensively, right? And so they have like the athletic and strong wings to, if they want to, put on Karl-Anthony Towns. That's kind of been the book out on New York. Teams have put like strong athletic wings on Towns and then guarded their center with Josh Hart. The Pistons have the ability to do that. We didn't see that in the last matchup between those two as much. Obviously, Hart was out, OG was out, and who else was out? Mitchell Robinson was out. They kind of just let Precious Achiuwa do what he wanted to do, and he had a good game, but the Pistons ended up winning that one. So I think New York has struggled with teams that play hard and play fast, and the Pistons play hard and they play fast. And I think their versatility defensively, and not even just that, they're on a string. Like, this is a group that, like, they don't make many mistakes defensively. They work in unison. They do a great job of knowing the game plan and sticking to it more often than not. So New York has to move the ball. They have to get creative. Detroit struggles against pick and pop bigs. New York has to be disciplined with its spacing. Again, this is not they rank 27th in 3-point attempts. So when you think about a team that has Jalen Brunson, Cat, OG, Mikal, and Josh, like, that's a team that should shoot more threes. They're all, for the most part, really good 3-point shooters, but the Knicks weren't always disciplined in their spacing. The ball handlers didn't always get on target passes. So that's a thing. That's a positive for Detroit, who is like a middle of the pack 3-point shooting team. Also, the Knicks have struggled guarding the 3-point line. There was a point, I think 2 or 3 months into the calendar year, where teams were shooting 40% against the Knicks, like somewhere from 3 around mid-February. Obviously, the Pistons are an okay 3-point shooting team. Malik Beasley's one of the best. Cade has been good from 3. Tobias, once Ivy went down, has been really good from 3. Tim Hardaway has been good from 3. So they have guys, if the Knicks don't cover the 3-point line, that can do damage. So for the Knicks, I think the most important thing is like the communication. They have to be on a string defensively. They often fall asleep off ball, and they got to make sure that doesn't happen against this Detroit team. And then you hit, like I said, on offense to kind of combat the physicality and versatility that Detroit has defensively. Make sure your spacing is good. Move the ball, cutting, off ball stuff. Like make Detroit work. Make the young team that is in its first playoff setting, like make them have to use their brain a lot. And I think that's going to be important for New York. Discipline. I think on both sides of the ball, discipline is kind of the word that you would want to see most from the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs.
All right, so you mentioned something that I really wanted to hit on, something that I know you mentioned the Pistons had done early in the year, but they weren't able to do this past game because guys were out. But I've seen a lot of teams do it. I think the Pistons will obviously do it in the playoffs. That is obviously putting Josh or Jalen Duren on Josh Hart or one of their bigs on Josh Hart, and then letting a wing guard Karl-Anthony Towns. And as soon as Karl-Anthony Towns puts the ball on the ground, he's seeing two guys at the paint. The center's kind of just roaming, and the teams are just kind of giving Josh Hart the ability to, if you're going to hit threes tonight, you're going to hit threes tonight. It is what it is. I have two questions about this because I do believe that could win the Pistons the series. But I just want to know, have the Knicks, two things. One, have the Knicks found ways to counter that? Like, for example, maybe getting Josh Hart involved in some screening action, some DHOs, something like that. And two, is Tibbs so – I feel like I've seen a lot of Knicks fans asking about this, but I really like McBride. I would figure that a way to counter that is just to get Josh Hart out, put McBride in, and then teams feel less confident about just leaving McBride wide open instead of Josh Hart. Is Tibbs so enamored with Josh Hart, or is Josh Hart so impactful to where the Knicks will deal with that issue and take the trade off because they believe it impacts them more in a positive way than a negative way?
No, those are both good questions. What was the first question you had again? Like what was
do
like,
the Knicks find ways to counter with it?
Yeah, so they have used Josh Hart as a screener a lot. They have used Josh like in off-ball actions. Josh is pretty good at eating up the space. He's one of the best finishers in basketball. Like I haven't checked recently, but for most of the year, the dude was finishing around the rim around like 70%. Do the Knicks need him to take more threes when he's wide open? Yes. If people recall, he basically won them the Philly series last year, shooting like 40% from three. Philly dared him to shoot. He shot and he made it. So the Knicks need some of that confidence back and need him to step into shots when he has them. But yeah, they have been versatile. They've tried to combat things. I think just at times they're just not disciplined in those like instances, right? Like where they don't always make the right read at the right time, where they sometimes get tunnel vision. When Cat has his back to the basket, he's not as good of a passer as when he's at the top of the key. Also, when Cat gets downhill, he's not always looking to pass, and that bails out other teams too. So they need to again be disciplined and stick to their principles. So I definitely think that is something that they've shown glimpses of. If you look at the first quarter of the Clippers game in New York a few weeks ago, like I think Josh had like 6-7 assists, or maybe not even that many assists, but they were running everything through him. They really gave the Clippers problems in that first quarter as they tried to guard him like everybody else does. They were screening and moving, and it was really good. And then Josh got in foul trouble, and they kind of got away from it a little bit the rest of the game, and Clippers came back. So they have, again, I just think discipline is the biggest thing. To answer your second question, I think could Tibbs have that wrinkle in the playoffs, just kind of keeping it in his back pocket? I think there's a possibility, like playing McBride more with the starters. I think that is something that you could see more. Why do I not think it happened as much? There's a couple things to that. I think, first of all, Josh does everything else well offensively. Like I think he had finished the season with 9 triple doubles. He's a great passer. He gets deep paint touches and kicks it out. He gets to the rim and finishes. He's a connector on that offense and does a great job. Also, this team needs a little bit of like a little bit of like toughness, right? Like there are times where there's just they're a little too nonchalant. And Josh is the guy that gets in there and wins the 50-50 balls. Josh is the guy that gets in there and isn't afraid to like show some emotion, to get angry. Like Josh is very, like I've said this to Josh, like the best teams in the NBA have like a Josh Hart, right? Like the Lakers won the title in the bubble, KCP, right? Different types of players, but the low maintenance offensive player who kind of just like knows how to play and mucks up games. KCP did it again in Denver. Bruce Brown in Denver. Draymond Green's obviously an obvious example. Like there is value in the wild card 50 guy who's going to get you the 50-50 balls and play his ass off, who's great in transition. Like the Knicks they play with one of the slowest paces in basketball, but when Josh gets a rebound and goes, like that ups the pace a little bit. So it just gives them a different dynamic. Now in a 7-game series or a playoff series, again, could Tibbs have a wrinkle where he hasn't really shown it for certain reasons? He knows it'll work. Certainly possible. But with that, you're also looking at a backcourt that would then have Jalen Brunson and Deuce McBride. And that's a very small backcourt, especially against a Detroit team that, I mean, Cade has had his way with any defender that the Knicks have thrown in his way in the regular season. So to have two small guards, I think I could understand the hesitancy there. Offensively, I think it would help, but defensively, are they good enough that it makes up the gap? I'm not sure. We'll see, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see that lineup, McBride and the starters, whether they start games or not. I think we see it for longer periods than we did during the regular season.
The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. I've told you guys this many of times. I tried out FanDuel a few years ago. I have not turned back since. I use it very often. It's super easy to use, super self-explanatory, and most importantly, obviously, it's super fun to use. I wouldn't be using it if it wasn't fun for me to be using. I maybe use it a little too much, so maybe be a little bit more responsible than me, but FanDuel is incredibly fun to use. You get to do all kinds of different things, same game parlays, live betting props. You can do multiple game parlays. Just amazing stuff over at FanDuel. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today when you place your first $5 bet and it hits. Again, don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today with FanDuel. All right, so also I want to move on to now. We'll start talking more Pistons. Everyone listening, we're getting a preview for the Knicks Pistons series. I had James on because I want everyone to have an understanding of what the Knicks are going through, what their team is like, where the weaknesses, where the strengths are, so you know what you should be watching for when we get into the playoff series. But we'll talk about the Pistons a little bit now. So obviously Cade, like you just mentioned, has had his way with the Knicks so far this year. In all of their matchups, he's played really well. In the 3 wins, he's played extremely well against the Knicks. There's been a lot of talk I've seen from Knicks fans and a lot of talk from people over in the Knicks community that once OG Anunoby gets back healthy, they'll have the recipe for how to guard Cade. My question for someone who covers the Knicks, how do you think the Knicks should best guard Cade? Because there's a lot of, for me, the way I'm looking at it is no matter who's been healthy for the Knicks this year, Cade has killed them. Cade has killed them 1v1. Cade has killed them off ball. He's killed them in transition. He's killed them in every which way possible. So in the post, he's killed them in each way possible this year. But one thing I saw that maybe, I don't know if Tibbs did this because of how he got burnt the last time or if this is going to be a new way they want to guard him. Either way, I think this plays into the Pistons' hands a little bit. In the third game they played, Cade was killing them, and then in the fourth quarter, they just started trapping Cade. They just started blitzing him hard out, pick and roll, started trapping him, and that was the game Malik Beasley and THJ hit dagger threes back to back to back at the end of that fourth quarter to win the Pistons games against the Knicks. Then in this final game against the Pistons, they did not trap him so much. They let Cade get to the mismatches he wanted. They stunted at him a little bit, tried to bait him into some doubles, but Cade correctly waited it out, was patient, and they never really brought hard doubles. They just stunted at him a little bit. Seemed like that the last game kind of scared the Knicks a little bit away from just full-on blitzing them and giving up open threes to Malik, THJ, Tobias, etc. In the playoffs, one of the concerns I've had for the Pistons have been, what's going to happen once teams just decide to double Cade? What's going to happen if they just say, Cade, you're not getting off, we're just going to trap you? I mean, they had some success against the Knicks when they did that. Do you think that's something the Knicks will go back to doing, just trapping Cade? Or because of, like you said, their ability or their inability to guard threes may scare them away from blitzing and then rotating back to take away the open threes too, like you mentioned on Malik, THJ, Tobias.
So what I think is going to happen is I think the initial start of this series in game one is going to be guarding Cade traditionally, like traditional pick and roll coverage, right? Like try to get Mikhail or OG to stick to him, cat and drop, maybe switch it up with cat stunning a little bit. Depending on how that goes, then I could see them hard doubling Cade. And why I say that is playoffs are a different beast, right? Are Malik and THJ and Tobias going to hit those threes? With that, though, and where I think the Pistons' biggest weakness is and why I have the most pause picking them in this series is the lack of secondary playmaker. And I know Dennis Schroeder has done a solid job of filling in that void, right? I don't know. I've watched a decent amount of games, a good amount of games. I don't necessarily think the Schroeder and Cade minutes have gone super great, right?
They've been on and off. They started
They've
off
been
really
on and
well,
off, right?
started to dive a little bit lately, but
Right. So there is not a true number two playmaker right now that you would want, the type that you would want going into a playoff series. So if you're New York and guarding Cade traditionally isn't going well, at that point, make somebody else beat you. Make them make them play up to the moment, make them make the right decisions. I think that's the best way to go because, listen, the NBA is all about star players. One guy could swing a series. Cade is that good. Cade has been tremendous. I know Cade as well as any reporter can know a player. He's not going to be afraid of the moment. These guys lost 28 straight with the whole world watching them and waiting for them to lose. That's pressure. Going into a hostile environment when you're playing with house money isn't pressure. Like the Pistons, if they get swept, nobody's saying the Pistons had a bad season. When the whole world is watching you and waiting for you to lose 28 games, that's pressure. Like they're a tough team. Like I don't think that's going to play as big of a factor as other people do. But what I do think is going to hurt them is the lack of secondary playmaking, because I could see a world where the Knicks really just like, all right, guys, Cade, you're not going to beat us. Make everybody else do it. And are they going to be able to make the right reads? Are they going to be able to hit shots? That's the question I have. If I was New York, I would go traditional, see if Cade rises to the moment. I'm assuming he will. Pivot from there, blitz him, make somebody else beat you. And that's how I would handle it. Like, it's make somebody else. If you're going to lose, it's not going to be because you didn't guard Cade or Cade couldn't be stopped. Like, you got to make sure that you try everything. And the one of a few weaknesses the Pistons have is not having a true number two playmaker right now.
All right, so heading into the series, I want to ask you this. Who do you think, if you had to pick one player for the Pistons, obviously not Cade. We're not picking Cade. Cade's the cop-out answer. So if you pick Cade, I'm ending the recording. Who is the X factor for the Pistons? If they want to pull off this series win against your Knicks, you're the team you cover now, the Knicks.
It's not my Knicks.
Yeah, that's why I added that extra. I added that extra, the team you cover.
I have no team.
Who is the X factor for the Pistons to pull off the victory?
You could go a few different directions here.
Well, you only got 6 minutes, you only got 6 minutes left. So
I'm gonna go. Man, so I have two. It's Ausar and Tobias.
Okay.
I imagine Ausar is going to be guarding Jalen Brunson. Do you think Ausar starts or no?
100%.
Okay. Because I know they've been going back and forth with like THJ at times, right? Like,
they've been going back and forth with THJ and Malik, not so much Ausar.
Okay.
Ausar's been a mainstay.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't know if there was some stuff I missed. If Ausar can help neutralize Jalen, can help the Pistons get out in transition, can get to the rim, can finish, knock down a three here or there, that could swing a series. Tobias, I'm imagining, I wouldn't be surprised if they put him on Cat. when Stu's not on the floor? Can he hit threes at a good clip? Can he make his open shots? Can he make the right reads like he has all season? That's the thing. And what he does defensively against Cat. So I'm going to go with those two. Who are your picks?
I was just going to say my answer is Ausar. I think Ausar can win them the series. I expect Cade to be great. I don't feel like like I said, picking Cade is a cop out because obviously
it's not an X factor.
Yeah. You need him to be well. Obviously, he's your best player. If there's another player that plays well that can win him this, I think it's Ausar because him playing well means he guarded Jalen Brunson without getting in foul trouble. He did a good job guarding him. And the Knicks, while we talk about the Pistons putting someone on Josh Hart, I assume that the Knicks probably will try to put. I mean, if I was going against the Pistons, I probably would put my big man on Ausar and have them roam if that's something that they end up wanting to do. Ausar has been on and off. I mean, the last 10 games, he was averaging like 15 points a game, and he was doing really well against it. Sometimes the Pistons go away from using him as much. Sometimes he seems more of an afterthought, and then they allow teams to get away with it. So they've shown that he can thrive against it, but he's also shown that they can, kind of get away with it. If he's able to make them pay in the short roll, in the dunker spot, in transition, as I think he's the other guy in that starting lineup that has to take on some of those secondary creation in the half court. He's going to have to pick up some of that, help create some offense, getting downhill, getting a paint touch for the Pistons. If he's able to play well, I think the Pistons win. I think that now if Cade obviously doesn't play well, they're not going to win. But I'm assuming Cade plays well. If there's one other player for the Pistons that could play well, and I think that would swing the series for him, I think it would be Ausar.
That's fair. Me and Hunter Patterson have a piece coming out, I think, tomorrow, just previewing the series. And my X factor for the Knicks are Mikal and Josh Hart. Josh, for the reasons we talked about with the 3-point shooting, but Mikal, obviously, he'll likely have the assignment of guarding Cade. He's shooting 35% from three during the regular season, but 30% above the break. He likes to shoot mid-range jumpers. He needs to get. He's only shot 118 free throws this year. That's almost 100 less than the next closest starter. They need his shot diet to change a little bit, and obviously they need him to defend Cade at a high level. So Mikal's a guy that obviously is a very good player. If he's able to knock down his open threes and get to the line a little bit more, because I think that's going to be important, being aggressive and getting these young Pistons in foul trouble. I think they need him to be a little bit more aggressive offensively.
All right, so we're about to wrap up. Obviously, we have to ask you this. I'm assuming that you'll probably take the cop out. So, I mean, it is what it is. But I have to ask the question.
What's the cop out?
Who's going to win the series and how many games in your prediction? How do you think this goes?
So, right now, I'm kind of settled on Knicks in 6 or 7.
Okay.
And it's simply experience and talent. What I think that needs to be addressed and talked about is that the type of team the Pistons are, the Knicks have struggled against. They are 9-20 against top 10 defenses. The Pistons have shown that they can score against them. I just worry that in a playoff series, when it's sole focus on game planning on one team, if the Pistons will be able to score enough points. The Knicks are not a great defensive team. They're okay. But like if they're able to somewhat like force the ball out of Cade's hands, can other guys make enough shots? And it's really the only question I have. I think the Knicks have the experience. Obviously, they have the shot making. Now, I will say this: if the Knicks win, it's in 6 or 7, just because of the matchup and the style that Detroit plays has not necessarily been conducive to the New York Knicks playing well. If the Pistons win, I think they win in 5 or 6.
Whoa, why? So you can't end the podcast with that. You only got 30 seconds left.
No, I say I think the Knicks win in 6 or 7. But if you tell me the Pistons come in to Madison Square Garden, game 1, unafraid, lock up, get easy points in transition, and really set the tone, there's a fragility about this Knicks team that people in New York are, if they're honest with themselves, know about. This team has struggled in big moments this year. They've sometimes got punched and not punched back. We're still not sure if this group works in totality. Like if the Pistons come in and handle business in game 1 and really like put the Knicks on the rope or behind the 8 ball, like I could see this going not good for New York just because of what we've seen from them in the regular season in terms of how they've handled big moments this year. And they have all the pressure in the world. The Pistons have nothing to lose. But I think New York's experience, New York's talent, they have on paper, a very good starting five, one of the best in basketball. I think that wins out. And the Pistons just turn the ball over a little too much. You can't. The Knicks play at a slow pace. They don't shoot threes. One thing you cannot allow the Knicks to do is get easy points in transition. And the Pistons do turn the ball over a lot. And I don't think that's a too big for the moment thing. That's just something the Pistons have done for quite some time. And if they're going to allow the Knicks to get easy points for an offense that at times can be stagnant and at times can use up the shot clock, still score, but use up a lot of the shot clock and still score. And a team that doesn't shoot a lot of threes, like, you cannot give them easy points. And if we're just going off what we've seen this regular season, the Pistons do give teams easy points. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. We appreciate James for coming back onto the podcast. I know you're going to be extremely busy over the next week and a half. There's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm assuming a lot of stressful moments for you over the next week with how much you have committed. I know you have a bunch of stuff committed to, so I know it's going to be stressful.
Yeah. I mean, there's work. I told myself I'd do 2 Pistons pods and 2 Knicks pods. Obviously, I've gotten a lot more requests than that. We go back, so shout out to you. Shout out to Cade.
Of course.
Got the ice on.
Yeah.
I had to come through. But yeah, to me, it's like the most annoying thing in the series is going to be the fans on both sides.
Oh, I've already muted a bunch of people, so it's
it's like Pistons fans think I work for the Knicks because you already said you're New York Knicks, so that's annoying. And then Knicks fans think I'm a Pistons fan because I covered the team for 7 years. Journalists are not fans. I've been just listen. The reason I'm able to tell it down the middle is because there's no emotional attachment. You see what you see. I don't work for the Knicks. I covered the Pistons. Just want to make that clear. I have, again, no rooting interest at all. Like, I root for the best story. I could care less. If the Knicks win, I get to cover the second round of the playoffs. So if the Knicks lose, I can go put my toes in sand. Like, it's not like the check's still clear, everybody. Like, it's not a big deal.
I gotta give you guys a peek behind the curtain. I want you guys to know that James told me James told me before he had a hard out at 30 minutes. We're at 33 minutes simply because he had to add the last minute and a half talking about how he can go put his feet in sand.
I'm just saying it's not as, I'm not emotionally attached. Any journalist at a big publication should not be emotionally attached. You do it. You have a job to cover a team. You cover the team to the best of your ability. You tell it how it is, and that's it. And Knicks fans, I covered the Pistons, wasn't Pistons fans. I do not work for the Knicks. Cool. You got to stop saying you're Knicks.
I'm just trying to work you up because I know you can't like that. All right, I appreciate you coming back, James. We'll see how the series goes. You guys will get my prediction at the end of the week. I will not tell you guys mine yet. Stay tuned for the podcast. You guys can follow James over on Twitter. Follow all of his work at The Athletic. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay tuned out there. Until next time, peace out.